What's up? This is Kevin from Interactive Genes. Merry Christmas. Okay, today I'm going to talk about a lot of things because we have a very exciting developer update for you today. First, I want to talk about nostalgia. Now, Knockout has had a very long history, and today we're going to celebrate our history. So first, I'm going to celebrate the cards of the day. Alright, first we have our shield of the day, the Meat Shield. This Meat Shield, the attack is negated and discarded. You gain GP equal to the damage of the attack. Now this is one of my favorite cards, and it's been changed recently to be more balanced, and I think this is a really great example of how we work together at the Knockout team. So next we've got the range card of the day, and today we've picked out the Glitter Bomb. And this Glitter Bomb is also another example of how well balanced Knockout has become. This card used to be a 1/7, which was very overpowered, and it caused a lot of players to want to kill yourself. But luckily we've made this change, and I think everybody's happier for it. Right, next we've got the melee card of the day, the big red button, beep. So, when this card is played, all players must put their finger on their nose and say beep. The last player to do so takes 2 damage. Now, this is one of my favorite cards, and I think this is where Knockout really stands out as a board game, because it combines a party game and a board game. Party game and board game, and it's really cool. So, alright, and last we have the food card of the day, the Broken Ugly Donut. Now this card is very fun. You make another player eat the donut. It's tasty, and they get +1 health, but they have immediate regrets and lose 3 GP. So, those were the cards of the day. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll certainly be doing more in the future. Okay, we've also had a lot of goofs and gaggles here. One of my favorite being the infamous stamina. And this is one of my favorite things that was cut from the game, because it was a great concept, but it just shows you how much Knockout has really grown, because stamina was just, it was terrible. And if we had kept it, it would have led to an extended launch date. So I'm really glad we didn't cut that. Okay, so with that all said, we're now going to get into the updates. So, number 2, player changes. Now we've got today for you a lot of very exciting player changes, and we're going to start it off with Tim the Zombie. So, we found that Tim the Zombie's character was a fun idea where you would gain health by hurting other people, much like my own personality. But we found that many players would forget to use his scratch ability for his melee attacks. We thought maybe he would be forgettable, and I remember that when Daniel played Tim the Zombie, he would often forget this. So, we have decided to change Tim the Zombie's ability to now have brain tokens. So I'm very excited to talk about this feature today. So basically, the brain tokens in this game are, you're going to have 3 tokens with a cute little brain on it. And you'll have those with you at all times. And when you're creating your moveset during the prep phase, you can take one of these brain tokens and put it over an empty move slot. And what this allows you to do is, instead of putting a card there or using it as a movement space, at the start of the round, it heals you up 4 health. So that means that if you took 2 brain tokens and put them on 2 empty move slots, you would have 1 card, 1 free movement, and you would also gain 8 health before the round starts. And we found that this idea would help you get a lot of health really quickly. And why this is so important is because depending on who has the most health at the start of a round, it changes who you're going to be targeting. And if you have less health, you're more likely to be knocked out. So we found that this makes his ability both easier to play, easier to remember, and more impactful in real game opportunities. So this is still open for debate, and we're going to be playtesting this a lot on the internal servers, but we're very excited to bring this feature. Alright, so next we're going to bring this on to Jason Moon. So Jason Moon is a very fun character, but we have been very conflicted on the knockout team whether or not we've been nerfing Jason Moon too much. And I think that we have personally, this is my own opinion. So we decided to slightly buff Jason Moon in a very special way. This pays a tribute to one of our old favorite characters. I'm forgetting his name now, that's how rememberable he was. I believe it was Billy McLean. Billy McLean, one of our favorite characters. So he was very memorable. So basically, we've decided to split Jason Moon's abilities up into 2 parts. So Jason Moon now does +1 damage still, but only for range attacks. And we think that this fits with his player kit much better than the old ability does, because he has that big Zalagafatarian gun. And that gun would allow him to deal plus damage, but only from far away. So we think that's very important. But you're saying to yourself, oh no, that's a big nerf to Jason Moon. What are you going to do? Well, we've decided to also buff him by adding a alternate melee ability. So when you now melee attack other players, you will be able to move 1 space after a successful attack in any direction. And this harkens back to the days of Billy McLean when this was his entire ability, and we sadly had to remove him from the game. So we think that this will make that ability, which was very fun, more playable for Jason Moon. And just to add a little more detail on that, so if Jason Moon was blocked, let's say by a meat shield, then it would not, you would not be able to move a space. But if your melee attack was successful, it would allow you to move 1 space forward, for example, to follow up on a melee attack, or move 1 space back to hit them with a range. So we think that this ability will make him much more fun and playable. So, next, we're going to talk about one of my favorite characters in the game who's just added a couple months ago. His name is Senor Golpe, and he holds a special place in my heart as a bullfighter myself. And I want to now talk about a slight change to his player kit. So, we found that Senor Golpe was very fun to play, but that his kit was slightly confusing. So this is a very minor change, but what we've decided is Golpe now still can charge as many spaces as he wants in 1 direction on his turn, 1 time for free. But if he hits a fighter, it only deals damage if he was 2 spaces or more away from them when he charged. The mentality behind this, as my colleague Robbie brought up, bless his heart, was that a bull needs to accelerate to deal damage to a player. So that's pretty much the entire change. So his ability no longer deals damage if you hit them into a wall. It's been simplified so that now you hit them from 2+ spaces away, it deals damage, no matter if they're against a wall or anything. And we will be testing this one again on the internal servers and releasing out later December or early January for that change. Okay, next we're going to talk about Daisy and Francis. So Daisy and Francis, one of my favorite characters in the game. We're going to make an ever so slight change just so that we don't... we had one big issue with her character. essentially, it would be really annoying when you would be trying to move somewhere and Francis was in the way. And this was really frustrating because you couldn't move him with any attacks, he couldn't be knocked back, he was completely invulnerable and you couldn't get around him. So he essentially acted as a wall. And we found that this was just not a fun addition to the game. So instead, we are going to make Francis's D20 into a flat token, and we'll just have a picture of Francis on there. And this will allow people to walk on top of Francis or over Francis and occupy the same space as him. So he will no longer act as a wall, he will only act as a way to give more options to Luna and Francis. So that's it for player changes. Now we're going to move on to a couple minor changes. So number 3 is the trophy change. This is a very simple one. It's more of an art directive. I've been drawing more art than you can believe recently, but I've decided that this change will make the game a lot easier. So essentially, we're going to remove the numbers from the trophies on the tokens, because we found a lot of players be very confused on whether or not that means first place or 1 point. So we figure by removing that confusion, it will streamline the game and make it easier for beginners to understand. Fourth, we are currently working on the artwork for GL McKay, and we are very excited. Daniel is working very hard on this, and we want to make sure that he launches pretty soon. So essentially, we're working on just the artwork and his player kit. We're making sure that he is balanced, and we'll be playtesting him a lot in the coming weeks. Lastly, I want to talk about tournament cards. So this was a fun mechanic that gave me a lot of nostalgia when I started to think about this. So back in the day, we used to have cards that you would flip, and they would have a special ability for the tournament. Now tournaments have since been renamed Match, so we will call them Match cards instead. But we found that they were really, really fun to play back in the day when they just added so much variety to the game, and we've got a lot of fun things that we could do with them. So first, it would streamline the rounds mechanic for the game. So at the top of the tournament card, we could put how many rounds are in this match. We can put 2, 3, maybe 4, maybe 1 if we're feeling crazy, but we're thinking we're gonna stick to 2 or 3. And we can also put special fun abilities in these cards that will make the game more replayable. And we can do things like bonus trophies, where we could say the player who played the most melee cards gets an extra trophy this turn, or things like that. And we think that this will make the game a lot more replayable in the long run. Now, the one concern we have about this, of course, is cost. And we want to make sure that we can provide Knockout for a fair price to consumers. But this means that we have to cut down on extra components. So we have a couple of options for tournament cards. One, we could make them a stretch goal for our Kickstarter campaign, which I'm personally a fan of. I think they would be very fun for the game. Or we could simply move them to the expansion. So either of these are good options, and we'll be discussing on which of these we want to do, but at this point I think we're leaning more towards putting tournament cards in the base game if possible. So, I know you're all very excited for this developer update, and I'm hoping that you all get the best of luck in your coming up Knockout games. You get all the gold trophies, all the glory and fame, and you have so much fun with Knockout yesterday, today, tomorrow. And I hope that you all have fun. I hope eventually you're all playtesters of this game. And that's all from me. Signing out, I'm Kevin, and this has been another developer update. 2, the 1, from 1 to the 3. What's up? This is Kevin from Interactive Genes. I've been drawing more art than you can believe. I got more brains than Tim the Zombie. 3, the 1, from the 1, do the 3. If you play Sean Vance, come take a swing at me. I got meat shield, so it won't be free. All I get is glory and gold trophies. We're gonna keep nerfing Jason Moon. His damage will be negative pretty soon, and his skin is now pink instead of blue. Also now his name is Ugly Donut. Beep you. Stamina is now back in the game. Haters can't handle the glory and fame. Daniel, please finish. TL McKay, we needed him done yesterday. Get the game started. I'm looking for a big stack of cards and a lot of health. When you're against me, just kill yourself. Launch day got extended. Not Christmas like intended. I'm looking for play testers who play Knockout every day. They will say it's the greatest game out. Not that, but for me. 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 Not that, but for me.